I hope you're singing along, because I'm not. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. But it's the Happiness Hour on the Dennis Prager Show. Yes, it is. Oh, yes, oh, yes, oh, yes. Hey, everybody. The happy make the world better. The unhappy make it worse. It's a moral obligation to act happy even if you don't feel it. You cannot inflict your bad moods on people any more than you can inflict your bad odors. That's right. You wash them away, and you wash your moods away. I have been broadcasting the Happiness Hour since 1999, since the 20th century, without one exception, not one. If I have been on a Friday, which is true 95 or 98% of the time, then I have the Happiness Hour, even when bad things happen. And there's a deliberate thinking involved there. If I cancel the Happiness Hour because tragedy has taken place, then what I'm saying is we can't be happy in the face of tragedy or even discuss it. And I can't, I'm not, it's not a position I'm prepared to take. So, my friends, today's topic is your children, or you when you were a child. Every one of you was a child. Not every one of you has a child, but every one of you was a child. That's the way it is. And, by the way, it's probably true that some of you are still children. This is a tragedy. One should aspire to be an adult as early as one can begin thinking. It is good to be an adult. It is good to grow up. It is good to be mature. Today's topic is based on a recent course at Prager University by the brilliant and wise John Rosemond, family psychologist, and it is about the obedient child. And he has one line in there that is utterly pertinent to the Happiness Hour, that obedient children are happier children, contrary to the teachings of the 60s until the present. The 1960s till the present upset all of human wisdom, and we are paying the price in our society, not least of which through very many unhappy people. Kids who listen to their parents and who believe that the parents have the authority in the home are happier kids and happier adults. Now, is it possible to have an authoritarian, not authority parent, an authoritarian who is so severe as to suck out all joy from a home? Of course that's possible. But you can't take extremes to invalidate a generalization. Otherwise, you cannot say that seatbelts save lives, the example I always give, because there are cases where seatbelts kill you, and that's literally true. But I will not drop the generalization that seatbelts save lives because of the exception when it does not. So the general rule is obedient kids are happier kids. When I see kids who are allowed to do what they want by their parents, and it starts so early, the kid who screams in a restaurant. If my kid screamed in a restaurant, even forgetting about raising a child, I would take the child out, first and foremost, for the sake of the other diners there. But I don't want to get sidetracked on that, though it's an extremely important subject. The belief that my child can ruin dinner for 50 other people it's one of the phenomena of life. I don't understand how these people think. My kid would scream. First of all, they didn't. I didn't allow them to. You can't scream. Sorry, you have something. Now, if the kid is 6 months old, I understand you can't reason with them. But pretty shortly thereafter, I don't know, starting at 2, 2.5, when they can understand English. You can't scream. It's the way it works. His theory, and I believe it, is the obedient child is the happier child. I have seen it over and over. The kids who do not have parents to whom they look up to as an authority are overwhelmingly less happy children. If you want to raise a happy child, a happy adult, then you should, in fact, make one who is more likely to listen to you. All right, 1-8-PRAGER, 776-877-243, 777-6. Do you agree with that? How were you raised in that regard? Do you look back at it as a source of your happiness or unhappiness? You know why kids are happier? See, this is the interesting question. Why are kids happier when parents are authorities? There are many reasons for it. I'll give you one to begin with, and that is that children, more than love, believe it or not, they need guardrails. Children do not fear not being loved. They fear insecurity. They fear not being protected. This is a very important distinction. Kids don't have this worry about my parents love me. They worry about, will they protect me? If the parent is an authority, the child has a sense of security. If the parent is a wimp, then the deepest fears of a child are sustained. How can a wimpy parent, now they can't verbalize it this way, obviously, but we can, we're adults. How can a wimpy parent protect me? And by the way, interestingly, not only protect you from outside forces, but protect you from yourself. There's no kid who is capable of realizing that they have to battle themselves. Well, it's not true. I was raised like every religious kid, Christian or Jew, that your biggest issue in life was yourself. You had to fight yourself and your own flawed nature. But that comes with time. In the beginning, you don't understand that. Although I think it can be explained, oddly enough, but by and large, they don't understand it. But when you are given guardrails, you know that you can be, or there are rules that can be in charge that will protect you not only from outside forces, but protect you from your own inner chaos, which is what a child's world is like. It's chaotic inside. There's order in a home when the parents are authorities. Order in a home is a source of happiness to a child because, again, the child feels secure. Life is predictable. The child can have a limitless number of friends, but they're only given 2 parents. And perhaps with a step-parent, a third, but we'll keep it at the 2. Sometimes only 1. I understand all of that, but still, it may be changing. I won't be able to even say the majority, but until now, the majority of children had 2 parents. Let's put it that way. That includes divorced parents. You're still the child's parent. One of the tragedies of the many tragedies of divorce or potential tragedies, doesn't have to happen, is that parents feel so guilt-ridden with regard to their child because they divorced that they no longer serve as the child's authority figures, but rather therapists. You can hire a therapist. You can't hire a parent. You're all they've got in terms of parenthood. You can fire a therapist. You can't fire a parent. All right, it's the Happiness Hour. Obedient kids are happier kids. See the John Rosemond video. You are listening to the Happiness Hour on the Dennis Prager Show.
Got no butler, got no maid. Still we think you've been overpaid. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. She got the sun in the morning and
yeah,
the moon
no
at
butler
night.
and no maid, but they got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. How many songs advocate happiness since the 60s? We're very curious. May have something to do, I think it does, in fact, has something to do with the wisdom deficit, the morality deficit, the unhappiness, and much more that has occurred since then. I'm Dennis Prager. This is the Happiness Hour. Every Friday, the second hour of my program is devoted to happiness. Obedient children are happier children. That is the theme today. It is not my line. I get it from John Rosemond, and you can see his elaboration of the theme in the Prager University video, How to Get Your Kids to Listen. Child psychologist, 2.5 million views. It's pittance compared to the number of parents raising children who should see it. It's obviously a big number, but the task is immense. Because children, I said this earlier, and it really may shock a lot of parents, children want security more than love. When you're an authority figure, the child is secure. That's what a parent should be. Love is secondary to moral earnestness and being the child's parent, which is an authority. All righty, let's go to some of your calls here. Colleen in Pittsburgh. Hi, Colleen. Dennis Prager.
Hi, Dennis. Great to talk to you again.
Thank you.
20 years ago or more, I read John Rosemond's book because I said so. I was a mom staying at home, and my husband traveled extensively, so the discipline fell to me, which was fine, but I had no idea what I was doing, if I should raise them like my parents did, who were pretty strong, or how. And between his book and Kevin Lehman's book, it just was a perfect balance of being able to bring them up to be a part of the family, not the center of attention in the family. And the kids are now 22, 20, 16, and are happy and joyful, and just I feel like they said that they would raise their kids like I raised them, and my husband too, obviously. But I can't encourage enough parents to listen to him, and he's such a wise man.
That's exactly right. He is a wise man. We don't live in the age of wisdom. That's the problem. We value knowledge but not wisdom. That's why people say experts say, and they think that therefore the expert has wisdom. Experts have as much wisdom as non-experts. Just you should know that. The fact that someone is an expert in an area does not bequeath to them any more wisdom than if they were in computer sales. It doesn't, and by the way, there's nothing, I'm only taking computer sales because it is so remote from, let's say a person is an expert in medicine. It doesn't give them wisdom about policy. That's my point. Any more than a computer salesman would have wisdom about health policy or medical policy. But we have confused knowledge with wisdom. That's my bigger point, and that's the one that matters here. This is it. You want to raise a happy child? This is the Happiness Hour. Then you have to be an authority in your child's life. If you're an authority, then they're an obedient child. But the word obedient in and of itself is a dirty word today. Greg in Denver. Hi, Greg. Dennis Prager.
Hi, Dennis. Great to talk to you today. I have a kind of a instantaneous example of exactly what you're talking about. It happened one night when my wife and I were out to dinner. We had my 3 kids and and we had another couple with us as well. And my youngest daughter, who's probably about 6 to 8 months old, she was just, screaming her head off in a little high chair. Couldn't make her happy. We didn't know what was really going on. She screamed her head off. I told her to stop. She didn't stop, so I kind of picked her up and went around a little corner where nobody could see me. And I said, Avery, you need to stop. And she kept carrying on. I slapped her little hand, nice little. And anyways, she was a little shocked, but she stopped. And I took her back over the table, sat her back down there. And within 30 seconds, Dennis, I'll tell you, she was back to laughing and, kind of enjoying the evening and making eye contact with people and smiling. And she didn't scream, I don't think, ever again, really, after that.
And wait a minute, and she was between 6 and 8 months?
Yeah, about 6 and...
No, that's amazing. No, it's even... Right.
I don't know.
Okay. That's a very, very great story. What can I tell you? It's unbelievable. But it's so true. You can see the metamorphosis into a happier child once you become the authority. That is a very powerful story, exactly as you said it would be. All righty, Salt Lake City, Millicent. Hello, Millicent. Dennis Prager.
Hi, Dennis. I love this topic. I have 4-year-old twins and a 2-year-old, and I always find it interesting that whenever we go to a restaurant, they're the only children, or among the only children who aren't looking at an iPhone or an iPad. They can sit there and they can talk to us, and I think that's because from a very early age, they've heard no. They've known their limits. They've known that what they can and cannot do. And I think when a child hears no, it's their first experience with self-discipline. And I think because of that, in the long term, they'll be happier people because they will be able to learn to delay gratification, instant gratification,
If you're not religious, I am not male.
I am very religious.
Okay. You are a living example of my belief that in America, Jews and Christians with greater religiosity are more likely to be wise. I don't know you. Obviously, I don't know you. And yet, just hearing the way you spoke, it said to me, this woman has a religious home.
Oh, thank you. It's very important to me, so I'm grateful that you recognize that.
You're very special. Thank you. Your kids are lucky. That's exactly right. I point this out frequently, by the way, the relationship between religious Jewish or Christian home and wisdom. It's very, and by the way, whatever the manifestation, she's Salt Lake City, she may well be Mormon, but whatever your theology, it doesn't matter. She's in the Judeo-Christian religion world. There are many manifestations of Judeo-Christian values, and that's fine with me. I don't take sides. I like what works. I think God likes what works too, by the way. But that's another issue for another time. That's right, vitamin N. That's the other John Rosemond brilliance. The most important vitamin in your child's life. Vitamin N, the word no. I'm Dennis Prager. We continue on the Happiness Hour. Okay, let's go to more of your calls on parent is authority, not authoritarian, but authority figure. That's what it amounts to in the final analysis. And Kelly in Fort Worth, Texas. Hi, Kelly. Dennis Prager.
Hi, Dennis. I just love your show.
Good. Thank you.
And I wanted to tell you I am a retired police officer. My husband's a retired firefighter. We brought our 3 boys up in a godly, disciplined home, and that was in the 90s and 2000s. And I will tell you what we got from that is we got well-respected, well-adjusted young men. One's a lawyer, the other one's a captain in the United States Army, and the next one is getting ready to be a police officer.
Wow. That's all I could say is wow. And look, you obviously embody what I'm talking about. Is that fair to say? That's the way you raised your kids.
Most definitely. We raised them in a godly home. We did discipline them. Anytime that they, just to go to show you, when we were eating out in public at restaurants, we would have people, when they were leaving their table, come over to our table and tell us what well-disciplined, behaved children we had. And they were always very happy, and they are happy, young, godly men today.
Well, God bless you. That's all I can say. If we had everybody raise kids like you did, we'd have a much happier country, and a much happier country, not to mention much happier inhabitants. Both. The society itself would be happier. It's actually depressing to me when I see ill-behaved kids in public. It really is. It's depressing. And the parents, I look at them and I think, don't you understand? You can't allow your kid to behave that way. Is that not clear to you? And it isn't. And there's a very good chance that they had a college or graduate school education, which for most people renders them stupider. I mean it literally. I'm not engaging in a fight here. I believe that if you get a PhD in the so-called liberal arts, the odds are you're a fool, though obviously there are some wonderful people, mature and intelligent people, who also get degrees that way. But if I hear you have a PhD in those subjects, it means that you have spent your entire life till about 30 years of age learning foolishness. I don't know how you study foolishness till the age of 30 and don't turn out a fool. That's all. It's a big problem. I'm not happy to tell you about it. But we're fooling ourselves if we deny it. All right, let's go to some more here. Mary in Tampa, Florida. Hello, Mary. Dennis Prager.
Hi, Dennis. Hey, I'm the lady that gave you the cigar last fall when you were here in Tampa.
I've been smoking it bit by bit since then.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Thank you.
A couple of things. You're welcome. I believe this for a long time now, that kids don't have a true authority figure anymore, because they go to daycare, they go to school, they're in every little activity that you can imagine. And when does the parent have true time to be with them? Probably never.
Yep.
And I just believe that with my heart and my soul.
Well, I'm sorry. Sorry, I thought you made your point. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah. The other thing, one of my uncles was disciplining one of his youngest children at church. And some lady came out and told him he shouldn't be doing that. And he said, yeah, well, if your parents had paddled you more when you acted up in church, you wouldn't be doing this. And he said all you could hear was the click, click, click of her heels.
Yeah, that, by the way, brings up another question. By the way, first let me react to your first statement about the lack of authority figures. That's exactly correct. That's right. And people who lack authority figures end up loving authoritarianism. This is a slightly separate issue, but it's one I am absolutely convinced of. It's the kids who are raised by non-authoritarian or non-authoritative or non-authority parents who then crave and are succumb to, in so many instances, authoritarianism and want it and impose it on others, like on campuses. That's the other thing that I said I'd like to raise is her second issue. This notion of it's okay for kids to cry in church or synagogue, and there are people who defend that. Well, it's a beautiful thing. This is the sounds of children. It shows that religion is continuing to the next generation. I don't see it that way at all. Alan, we got to do that for an hour. It's when I talk, which is regularly at my synagogue, or any synagogue or church, and that happens, if the kid continues to scream while I'm talking, I say, "Forgive me." Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a recording of this lecture, because you have to take your kid out, and I sympathize. That's right. That's right. He's got it. I would love to do a massive study. I mean, 100,000 people. It'd be hard to do because people's self-statements about happiness are not fully reliable, but it's still, over the course of large numbers, I think it would still be worthwhile. The correlation, if any, between having had authority parents of authority, parents who wanted you to be obedient, and your later happiness. I have found that there's no comparison. Where parents, it's not, and by the way, I think my parents were too strict. I do. For the record, I think they were too strict. But guess what? I'm a very happy guy. I think they could have been less strict, and I've been just as happy. Nevertheless, if you're going to err in one direction, that's the error that you should make. Kids need structure, boundaries, discipline, so that they can inculcate self-discipline, without which there is no happiness. I haven't even talked about morality. I'm just talking about happiness here. On the moral issues, there's no comparison. All righty, Alex in Atlanta. Hello, Alex. Dennis Prager.
Hello, Dennis. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Wanted to share with you something I thought you would like. When my children will say, I want that toy, I'll see it on the TV or at the store. I reply, I know. And I guess I do that to sort of teach them to deal with the want in a different way. Other than,
you know what? I did the same thing. I don't remember my words, but if my kid would say, you know, I really want that toy, and I say, I fully understand that. I can't blame you. It's like establishing the fact that we're aware that you would like it. That's wonderful. All right, Leslie and Steve and Hazim and Raquel and Sarah, please accept my apologies for not getting to your wonderful calls. Now, I'd like you to call on any subject under the sun, 1-8-PRAGER-776, and don't forget the Rosemont video at PragerU, how to get your kids to listen. Back in a moment. Dennis Prager. Hello, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. Thank you for being with me. Delighted to have David French of the National Review on. He teaches the latest course at Prager University, When Transparency Really Means Tyranny. Had 400,000 views in the first day. David French is a wonderful writer. He's a good man. And this video is very important because people are seduced into thinking, oh, of course, all donors should be known. Your video, anyway, first of all, welcome to the show, David.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
The people don't know that just a generation or two ago, which you make so clear in the video, it was the other way around. It was the liberals who argued, no, the names of donors should not be released to the public. Tell us about that.
Yeah, in the 1950s, the state of Alabama wanted the NAACP to release its membership lists. And, you don't have to be a historian to know what that would mean in 1950s Alabama. I mean, reprisals, boycotts, sanctions, violence even directed at members of the NAACP. And the Supreme Court, in a seminal opinion, said that the freedom of association includes a right to anonymously associate. There's a right of anonymous speech that exists in the First Amendment. And what's unfortunate is the same left that was arguing rightly for that right of anonymous association and anonymous speech in the 1950s has now turned around and said, look, here's what we need to know. Americans need to know who you give money to, how much money you've given. They need to know all of that about you in the name of so-called transparency. And what's happening is the left is using that transparency, or many members of the left, as a weapon, costing people their jobs, exposing them to public shame campaigns. It's intolerable. So this video is trying to highlight what for a lot of people is kind of an obscure area of constitutional law, but it's really a critically important arena for the health of our democracy.
See, that's the point. It's so seductive, the argument. Folks, you don't want dark money, right? That's what they say.
Right.
But people need to remember the whole issue. They called the pro-segregation racists called money to the NAACP dark money. That's your point.
Well, these arguments that were used, and it's really fascinating if you read that Supreme Court case, the ordeal faced by people who were supported the NAACP has a lot of echoes today. Now, fortunately, not as violent, but as you and I both know, our political climate is getting more and more violent. But again, you talk about people losing jobs. You talk about people being exposed to public ridicule. You're talking about efforts not so much to educate the public, and this is how those on the left are defending this. They're saying, well, we're just trying to educate the public. We're just trying to make sure the public knows who's supporting whom so we can have that debate. And the reality is it's intentionally, for many people,
right,
an instrument of intimidation. And that's why anonymous speech has to be protected. I mean, anonymous speech helped give us the American Revolution. It helped give us the Constitution of the United States. It helped give us the Civil Rights Movement. Why has anonymous speech lost its value now? It hasn't. It's
right,
arguably every bit as valuable.
That's why every American should see this video. They do come close to violence. I know a man who, when it came out that he had contributed to a conservative cause, people terribly, as close to attacking his family as you can get without attacking them, demonstrated in front of his house, screaming epithets at him for having given to a conservative cause. So it's, if it's not violence, it's pretty darn close.
Well, I one time had, because of mandatory disclosure rules, had my address printed and had a guy walk up our driveway, demanding to talk to me and to my wife. And
hold that story. Hold on. I really do want to hear what happened. David French of the National Review, senior writer there. What's a senior writer, by the way? Am I a junior writer? I write for them. What am I?
I think it means just a writer that's older. I'm getting up there.
Uh-huh. No, I'm just really ribbing National Review because it's you deserve it. I read you regularly and enjoy you very much.
Well, I appreciate that. I do the same. I thoroughly enjoy your contributions, and thank you for the Prager to be able to instruct on Prager University. I mean, what an incredibly powerful educational tool you've created here.
I just want you to know about that because and the reason I'm telling you is because, or the reason is that I hate doing is because the reason is that we're getting about 400 million views this year, and it's not our assumption. We know that the biggest single sliver age-wise is under 35 years of age. That's a big deal.
Hugely important.
Yeah, it gives you hope.
It does. It does, absolutely. And it's not just hope about the content, it's hope about the curiosity. I mean, the fact that you've got people this hungry for instruction on the ideals and the ideals and ideas and the principles behind the founding of our country and its continued vitality and prosperity. I mean, that's comforting that people are that curious about.
Yes, well, I think, believe it or not, and my listeners know, I never feign optimism. They know, they know when I'm pessimistic. I don't fool around with my listeners. I take them too seriously. But now, for the first time, really, I have reason to believe that they are up for grabs, this very much younger, this millennial generation. There is a suspicion among many of them they've only heard one side of the issue.
Oh, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I mean, one of the things that if you're talking, if there really is what you would call a youthful rebellious spirit, given how one-sided the educational system has become from top to bottom, it's about time for that rebellious spirit to manifest itself in a longing for alternative ideas and a longing for conservative ideas. And, we'll see. I mean, we've gone back and forth on this before in the past. I mean, there was a time during the height of the Reagan Revolution where young people were markedly more conservative than they'd been before. So it's not inevitable. And the left likes to think it's inevitable that young people will always be liberal. That's hardly inevitable, and that's why you got to engage in the battle of ideas.
That's exactly right. Well, just finish the story you were telling earlier, because again, your video is about the left's demand that all the contributors to political causes' names be released to the public. And we know that there's only one reason for that, and that is intimidation. So you were saying that your name had been released? Tell me that story.
Yeah, we had, this was several years ago, before I was a writer at National Review, before I was as publicly involved in political in political debates as I am. We were still involved. And when you're involved, particularly if you're involved, say, in party politics, or like Republican Party politics, say like a delegate to the Republican National Convention, there are certain mandatory disclosures you have to disclose publicly. And we had a guy come to our house, and to this day, we're not exactly sure how this all happened. It's not like he said, "Oh, hey, I looked you up on this and this, on this particular site and found you," but it illustrates the importance of privacy. It illustrates the importance of keeping your name, out of these searchable databases. And one of the things I think that's really important, that's illustrated in the video, is you can't even necessarily trust the government to keep private information private.
Oh, no kidding. You give the great example where they say it was inadvertent.
Yes. This was then Attorney General of California, Kamala Harris, now Senator and rising star in the Democratic Party, was requiring donor disclosure, and then her office inadvertently, accidentally, published these lists of names. And so it just demonstrates that where your information is best located? With you, not with the government. And as I said in the video, when you hear someone saying, "I'm for transparency," here's one question you should ask: who do you want to be transparent? If it's the government, yeah, absolutely, the government should be transparent.
That's right.
But if it's you, the individual, no,
Yep.
You should have privacy rights versus the government.
That's your great lesson from the video. David French, I hope to meet you one day.
Yes, I hope the same.
Thank you, sir, and all the best, and keep writing. David French, senior writer at the National Review, and his video is up this week. I mean, it stays up forever, but it's up this week. About transparency, when transparency really means tyranny. Folks, I just want to tell you, and this is not by way of appeal or by way of just talking about something I'm involved in, but I want you to know these things make a difference. I don't know if I've ever said this on the air. I don't know. Maybe I have. But we have every reason to believe that our video on the Electoral College turned the country around. literally. There was massive opposition to the Electoral College, increased because Hillary Clinton got a greater popular vote. A lot of people, including Republicans, thought, you know what, the president should be elected by a majority of voters, not by state electors. Right after this election, 50 million views of our video, 50 million. That means about 100 million people. Very few people are alone, and no one sees it. A lot of people see it in a group or with friends. We have reason to believe that almost a majority of American adults saw that video, and then every poll said turnaround in Americans' views of the Electoral College. It can be done. We'll be back. I'm Dennis Prager. Hello, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. I'd like to ask you a question. It's the theme of my column today. It's Tuesday. I have my column out. Town Hall, National View, DennisPrager.com, and elsewhere. What if a Republican, what if a avid Trump supporter had attempted to murder any number of Democratic congressmen and had wounded many? I am as certain as a human being can be about something that didn't happen, that had it happened, it would be the dominant news item in the United States today, a week later. It happened last Thursday, right? So 5 days later. It is now a non-issue, as you know. It became a non-issue within 2 days. It would be the dominant issue. This is an example that you need to remember as to the damage that the press does and how its entire agenda is to promote the Democratic Party and left-wing ideas. It's like it didn't happen. Whereas the other way, all you would hear, there would be a tsunami of look at all the hate that Trump created. The hate is overwhelmingly on the left in this country. It has been so my entire life. They are the ones who close bridges. They are the ones who close highways. They are the ones who take over state capitals. They are the ones. Do you know that there was a stabbing in Santa Monica? Has this even been reported? Did you know this? Take a look right now. Would you look it up? Stabbing of Trump supporter in Santa Monica, California. Because I want to double check to make sure that I'm conveying something that I'm quite certain happened, but I want to get the data for you. Do you see it? Yeah. You want to give me the URL there, please? Is it correct? Am I correct in saying that a Trump supporter was stabbed? Anyway, the violence and the hatred are overwhelmingly from the left. And the proof, this is the proof. The shooting happened from the left, and had it happened from the right, that's all we would be hearing about. Don't forget, 50% off the best of Ultimate Issues, Male, Female, and Happiness Hours at my website.